Welcome in episode 7 of BLT Bets. Shout out to our friends at PointsBet Canada, as always. And episode 7, lucky episode 7, right? Like on a slot machine, 3 sevens.
I thought it was lucky 13.
But on a slot machine, if you go 777, that's what you want, right?
Good point.
Either of you ever slot machines or VLT guys?
More of a blackjack.
I've always been more of a table games guy at the casino.
I've hit the VLT sometimes.
Yeah.
But not a ton. Those things are deadly.
Yeah. And see, for me, part of the reason, like I got a couple of buddies who love a good slot machine, and I've just never taken the time to understand it. So for me, like I like knowing what I'm doing. So like blackjack, I know what I'm doing. Roulette, like I know, like obviously it's a crapshoot, but like I know like what I am doing. Sports betting, I'm aware of the outcomes. And with a slot machine, I'm always just wildly confused by what's happening at all points.
Just pressing a button.
Yeah.
You just sat there pressing a button. At least with like blackjack and stuff, you actually have to think about what you're kind of doing.
Yeah.
I feel like you have no
But maybe the
control.
mindless side of it is like the appeal. Like you just sit there and watch the lights go. I don't
Watch
know.
your money
See, whenever I
drain away.
think of slot machines, I think of there's a Simpsons episode where Marge becomes addicted to gambling, and Homer has to save her from the depths of Gamblor, which is like the evil gambling god.
Well, Gamblor was certainly with me last night before we talk about the series previews. Also, no BaggedMilk today. Zach stepping in if you haven't figured that out already. I put 4 plays in our BLT Bets community.
I saw that.
Perfect sweep because they changed the D'Angelo goal to a Trocheck goal.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah.
I didn't notice that.
So I got my Trocheck point at plus 115. I got my Zibanejad assist at plus 125. You had 3 of them. Shesterkin easily hit his over for saves, which was a great bet all series.
Yes.
And will likely be a great bet in the conference finals as well. And then I had Rangers money line. So 3 of the 4 were plus money as well. How about that?
I was a little iffy last night. Like I only made 2 bets. So I guess I wasn't that iffy. I split. I hit the Jordan Staal shots.
Classic.
Which was 1.5 at minus 120. And he'd hit it in like, I think 4 or 5 straight games. So that just seems like a bit too low of odds. High of odds, I guess. So that was a good one. And then I went with the sneaky Zibanejad goal instead.
You got greedy.
I did get greedy. He'd been scoring a lot. So I figured, let the train live a little longer.
What'd you have last night?
I've been devastated by the Hurricanes all playoffs long.
I saw you were betting on them,
I've been just devastated by them. I put way too much faith in this Carolina team. I broke even last night and thanks to the D'Angelo power play point.
Nice.
So that one came through for me. But I lost
That was like plus 240?
265. Wow. Pretty close. Yeah, it was a juicy number. And then I had Jordan Staal to get an assist at plus 375, which was wild. Didn't hit. Aho anytime didn't hit. Kane's money line didn't hit. But I made my money back on the D'Angelo point, so I'll take the break even.
I did have one other one, courtesy of our friend Frank Saravalli. I went with the Jacob Slavin too.
Yeah,
because
Frank was big on that.
He was talking about it. He really hyped me up. So, Frank, next time you're in town, there you go.
Drinks on Liam?
Drinks, yes, with my losses.
With your losses. Oh, no, so drinks on Frank for the bad advice. I was a little irritated the other day because I had money on McDavid anytime goal scorer in Game 5 against Calgary, and the book I placed it with does not honor overtime goals, which I feel like, and I just got a bone to pick, not that I need to really go off on this rant, but if it needs to say regulation goal scorer.
Yes.
100%.
You can't, like, that's false advertising. If it says anytime goal scorer and I bet on it, and then the player scores a goal at any time and I lose, that makes no sense.
The thing that also doesn't make any sense with that one is literally everything else is in effect.
Yeah.
Shots counted in overtime, points, assists, power play points. But damn, if you score a goal, don't you dare think you're getting any money for that thing.
It just makes no
ain't
sense.
happening.
Makes no sense. Before we get into the 2 matchups here in the conference finals, because that's what we're going to be doing today on the show is previewing the conference finals. I want to talk a little futures here. Stanley Cup odds. Do you guys see any value in any of these teams here? So you got the Avs, and this is courtesy of our friends at PointsBet Canada. You have the Avs as the favorites at plus 120. That doesn't make sense to me. It makes no sense to bet on a team that has to win 2 rounds against a couple of good teams at plus 120. There's nothing there, but I don't mind the Lightning at plus 220.
I would say one of the 2 East teams is where I would place my money. Mostly because of the goaltending. They have the 2 best goalies in the league right now.
Yeah.
Shesterkin is basically dragged New York there, right? Like, and we'll get into it a little bit more, I guess, when we talk Rangers and Tampa, but I do think the Rangers have a slight chance of getting out of this series because of Shesterkin.
Really?
He's so good. And
Vasilevskiy's also very good.
That is true. And we'll talk about it a little bit more after. But I think if I was going to put money on any of the teams, I would go Rangers.
So I'll throw this your way. If you like the Rangers at plus 500, just go bet Igor to win the Conn Smythe at plus 800.
Yeah.
Right?
That's probably where the value is for sure, because who else is going to get it on that team?
It's like with the Lightning too. Like I like the Lightning at plus 220. I'm not going to bet on it though. I'm just going to go throw a little bit on Vasilevkiy at plus 600 to win the Conn Smythe. Because if they win, like Vasilevsky's getting the Conn Smythe. The narrative's already kind of being pushed that way, right?
Yeah, I think whoever comes out of that series, and they win, one of the goalies is getting it for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So you could bet Vasilevkiy and Shesterkin, and as long as an East team wins the cup, like you're very likely cashing on a pretty good payout at either plus 600 or plus 800. For the Avs, McKinnon is the Conn Smythe favorite at plus 300, but I don't know if I love that.
Which is kind of strange to me a little bit, considering so we had 3 goals last series and they all came in one.
Yeah.
It's not like he's been like torching the competition.
But no one has been for the Avs, really. Like Makar and McKinnon were sick in round 1, but they were kind of quiet in round 2.
Interesting that they're the 2 highest best odds, right? Like plus 300 for McKinnon, plus 500 for Makar. It's odd that it's not Vasilevkiy and probably McDavid. And I'm assuming that's because the odds are on Colorado to win it, so they're more likely to get to the final. But I don't know. I just don't think the value's ever either of them if they go. Like, I feel like it could definitely come down to like some random player winning on Colorado if it happened, right?
What about like Landeskog?
Yeah.
Right? Like it could be like somebody like him where it's like, they're on the cusp of the great players off that team, but they just have an unreal cup finals. I mean, that's kind of the way I see it.
Kadri's 30-1.
Like even like that's nuts. Like that's 100% worth a sprinkle because he's having a great playoffs too. 5 goals, 5 assists, 10 points in 10 games. I mean, he's the type of guy that can absolutely turn it on. You look at the regular season, he had 28 goals, 59 assists, 87 points in 71 games. Like he's that guy that can turn it on at the right time, right?
Leon Draisaitl is 20-1 to win the Conn Smythe, which like there's a part, the pure hockey brain in me is like, okay, if the Oilers win, like Draisaitl was probably their most valuable player against Calgary.
He had the most points.
He set 2 records.
Yes.
So
it's
like
pretty good.
So Draisaitl at 20-1 while McDavid is 6.5-1 to me is like, damn, like maybe but I just can't see the writers not giving it to McDavid if the Oilers somehow win the cup, right?
It's like the year, what was it, the year Phil Kessel won and Crosby should have won?
It was the other way around. They voted it for Crosby, but Kessel was clearly the MVP.
Yeah, that's what
that HBK line.
Sorry. Yeah. If the Oilers win the cup, that's what's going to happen.
It'll be McDavid.
It'll be McDavid.
Yeah, I don't think there's a question about it. I'm curious to see how many first place votes he gets, even if the Oilers don't win the cup.
I floated the question to Frank and Jason on the DFO rundown. Will he won't get first place votes, but on how many ballots is McDavid if he doesn't even make the final?
I mean, how many votes do they place? How many players do they pick?
I think it's
again?
3.
I think
it's 3?
Yeah.
Oh, he'll be on there. He'll be on ballots for sure.
I think he'll get some third place votes.
Oh, for sure.
Now, if the Oilers get absolutely pumped by Colorado, no chance.
But if they like lose in 7 and he has 14 points in the series,
he would absolutely get some votes.
So funny that that's like a possibility. It's like, oh well, what if he gets 15 points in 7 games?
like, and no one's like laughing about it. It's like, oh yeah, no, like that's legit. He could do that.
Okay, this is real life.
So let's get into this Oilers-Avs series. The Oilers are plus 210 to win it. The Avs are minus 270. Really, the only value on the Avs is to take them at minus a game and a half at minus 121, which, if you liked the Avs to win the Stanley Cup and you were like, oh, I'm going to bet on them at plus 120, I would just say, like if we're using $100 for the sake of math, 100 on them to win the Cup would profit you 120 versus if you just threw 100 on them to win the series in a game and a half and then took that money and rolled it over on them to win the cup final, you're coming out ahead of what you would have been before, right? Like they'll be favorites, but not like, I don't think they'll be minus 270 in the Stanley Cup final. So you'd be ahead in that regard. But I'm probably not betting either side to win this series. I don't know how.
I'm not doing that either.
I'm sprinkling the Oilers.
I have. Okay, fair.
You have to. It's plus 220. I mean, I think the value's absolutely there. I think this is an Oilers team that actually matches up really well against Colorado. I wrote about it yesterday on OilersNation.com. Like the Oilers' answer here is to beat Darcy Kemper. Kemper's got the worst save percentage of pretty much any goaltender in the playoffs this year. Sorry, worst high danger save percentage. So if the Oilers can get traffic to the net, and the Oilers have scored 10 more high danger goals for in the playoffs than any other team right now.
And that's the interesting part about the Oilers, too, is even in the games where they maybe don't put up 40 shots on goal or something crazy, with McDavid and Draisaitl, they're getting high danger chances. So that's an interesting note you bring up there with Kemper and the high danger save percentage. I think his goals saved above expected or whatever, or above average, is like pretty low down there, too.
It's pretty low, too, right? He's definitely below 0, which is not what you want to see.
Yeah.
I think there's a legitimate chance that the Oilers can come out of this playoff series. You look at the regular season, I think the Oilers played him really tight. 1-0-2. They took him to an overtime game, took him to a shootout.
Yeah.
They were tight games. Granted, Colorado was missing a couple of guys, but I don't know. This Oilers team is rolling.
The Oilers to win the series in 7 is plus 650, which I think is a fairly interesting spot if you wanted to back the Oilers as well, thinking it could go the distance. I'm just not confident enough in it. What about at PointsBet? They have series top goal scorer. McKinnon, McDavid, and Draisaitl are all plus 500, but the guys lower down. Landeskog at 650, Rantanen 750, Kane 800, Hyman and Kadri both 1100 as well. I don't know if there's anywhere there that I necessarily love, just because with all this talent, I think it's a crapshoot. I think anyone could score a hat trick and then have a 2-goal game later in the series, and it's they led the series in goals. I don't know.
Yeah, I think here's my kind of thinking around before I give my picks. Mm-hmm. So the Oilers have done a really good job in the first 2 rounds of preventing the other team's star players from taking over games.
Yeah.
Game 1 against Calgary, sure, Tkachuk had a hat trick. But besides that, Kopitar didn't do anything against the Oilers. Gaudreau was quiet. Lindholm was quiet. And again, Tkachuk was relatively quiet besides game 1. The players that were kind of on top of the Oilers were the secondary guys. Trevor Moore had a good series. Mm-hmm. Backlund. So that's why if I was going to make picks for Colorado scorers, I would go Valeri Nichushkin.
Yeah.
Very hard name to say. Plus 1,400 or Kadri at plus 1,100. I just feel like the Oilers have done such a good job of preventing those star guys, but not done a good enough job against the secondary guys that I could kind of see that trailing again as the second series. And plus, those guys are all great players, and they're playing with Mikko Rantanen. It's a pretty good second line.
Yeah, I think they might be messing with their lines a little bit. I think there's a chance we see Nichushkin up with McKinnon to start.
Okay.
Which is why one of my bets for this series, I found Nichushkin at 4 for his over-under for points at minus 118. I think that's a pretty good spot there. Yeah. Nichushkin, he's hit that mark in each of the first 2 series. He had 5 or 6 against Nashville, and then he had 5 against the Blues as well. The tough part, and this was a lesson I kind of learned in round 2, is when you bet on these props, you're really banking on series going long, because it's hard, even if the team wins, for them to hit the marks if it's a 4 or 5 game series. But Nichushkin over 4 points seems like a pretty safe spot from an Avs bet.
And I think we're all expecting goals, which is quite funny because all 3 games they played in the regular season hit the under.
One of them was 5-3, or the last one 6-3.
Right. 6-3.
So, but it hit twice.
The other 2 went to a shootout and overtime and were incredibly tight. And I think the reason why that one game went is because that was the game the Oilers clinched.
Yeah, right? That was the Friday night in Edmonton.
Yeah, so that went a little nutty there. Maybe a little out of character, I guess, for how the other 2 games went. But that's kind of where I'm thinking for Colorado. Did you have picks for Colorado, Zach?
No, I don't have any right now. I haven't really had a good chance to dive into these. I got some on the Oilers. But just taking a brief look, Kadri over 5.5 at even money.
Yeah.
I don't hate that there. I don't know. I just have a hard time getting a feel for this Avalanche team. It was just kind of been a weird playoffs for them, I think.
Yeah. The payout isn't great on this one, but I found Makar to outscore Nurse head-to-head at minus 154.
That's
good. Nurse doesn't play on the power play. He's not a point-producing guy. Makar is.
Yeah, that's kind of like that Kane and Tkachuk one we were talking about in the second round.
Where after game 1, it would have been shit.
Idiots. But Makar, people keep saying he's slightly hurt, right? But also they've had a bit of a break now, a few days. That seems kind of easy peasy to me.
Okay, how about this for a weird series prop? To score 1 point in every game of the series. Yes, for Connor McDavid is plus 165.
Okay.
They could shut him down once. They could.
McDavid has only not scored a point in one game this playoffs.
And it's when LA shut him out.
And it's when LA, didn't allow anybody to score a point.
You know what I actually like with the better value? Draisaitl, the same prop at plus 375.
Oh, yeah. You probably got to hit that.
I hit that.
Yeah.
That to me is where the value is on that one. Right,
That
because
is ridiculous.
It is, right?
Yeah.
Because it's the same thing. They have an equal amount of points. I'm pretty sure Draisaitl's got points in every single game. 17 points in 5 games against Calgary, for God's sake. I mean, he plays with McDavid in all situations. I mean, that to me is where the real money is.
That's a great find. Now the question for me is just how much do I want to put on this? Because I love that. Like plus, like even like that's not a lock to hit, but it. For plus 375, I mean, come on.
Huge.
And the thing is, what is it for no?
Minus 667.
What?
That doesn't
That's
make sense.
insane. Like
That
that's not right.
No, it's not. Switching gears to the Oilers, my favorite prop in this series is Evander Kane over 2.5 goals. It's only minus 143, but this guy has hat tricks in the first 2 rounds.
Yeah.
He could hit that in 1 win.
Well, my favorite prop actually is him to lead the series in goals.
Yeah.
At plus 800.
He's leading the playoffs in goals right now, is he not?
Yeah. So I love that one. Like you said, like he's done that in 1 game twice.
Yeah, I'm betting on that.
Yeah. And again, I guess we're banking on the I think this series will go long.
I think so.
And we said that last time, and I think the Oilers really... Were you more surprised by the Oilers last series or Calgary?
I'm torn on that. Like, I think the Oilers, the resilience the Oilers showed kind of like surprised me. Like the way they just would go down and then be like, fuck it, we're getting this one back. And like they would just do it every single time was wild. And the way they didn't crumble after some bad moments. And then Calgary just being like so flat and at times uninterested was weird. Yeah. And you're not getting that with Colorado. I think Colorado is a very motivated group at this point to get over the final hump here.
I think so too. What do you think?
Yeah, I'll agree with that for sure. I mean, I think Calgary surprised me more in the sense that you're right, Tyler. They didn't really seem to care. Daryl Sutter got out coached by Jay Woodcroft in that series pretty handedly. I think there's a lot of reason too to be surprised by the Oilers, and I think this is a series where I really think, like I said before, I think this series can go either way. I really do. I think the Oilers match up well against Colorado, and I think there's spots on this Avalanche team they can exploit. You look at the Jack Johnson, Josh Manson pairing. They've had some struggles. Their other pairing on the back end too of Bowen Byram and Eric Johnson. I think that's a matchup the Oilers can exploit as well. So, and then up front, I just don't think Colorado's as deep as people say they are. I really don't. I actually think when you look at it, I think the Oilers match up really well. Top 6 against top 6. I mean, that third line listed right now of Burakovsky, Comper, and Abe Kubel.
Who was a waiver wire pickup.
Yeah.
That line doesn't scare me at all. I think the Oilers' third line is better than that line. And the fourth lines, well, they're a wash, right? So, I think the Oilers really do match up well. And again, it's goaltending. It's going to come down to goaltending.
Yeah.
The Andrew Cogliano Revenge Tour. Any prop bets?
Are they available anywhere?
Yeah, I'm not seeing any available right now.
I don't know if I'm sold on Cogliano's chances making a big impact. Granted, now we're going to get to post this clip when he scores like the OT winner in game 3 or some shit like that. And where are my Darren Helm props?
Yeah.
I had no idea that guy was still in the league.
I did no idea either.
Somebody, you know what's hilarious? Yesterday during the Oilers press conference, somebody literally asked Ken Holland about Darren Helm because he brought Darren Helm up in Detroit in like the mid 2000s. I was like, what a random ass question. Like you're asking about like some fourth liner. Like it was hilarious.
There was a clip after he scored that game winner in game 6. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then it showed one from, I think, the 2009 Detroit Red Wings run where he also scored the game winner like really late. It's like, man, this guy has just been around in the bottom 6 forever. Like,
but not even really one of those guys. Like sometimes when you get those journeymen, it's like, oh yeah, they've played for like 48 different teams. But like, who's he even played for?
I think
like
just Detroit and St. Louis.
Yeah, it's literally
Colorado.
It's just Detroit and Colorado, and this dude's just been grinding it out on fourth lines since 2007.
I respect that a lot.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Yeah.
He must be like the best locker room guy.
Yeah.
Guys must love him.
St. Andrews, Manitoba, boy. I've always said they produce good fourth liners from St. Andrews, Manitoba.
They have tons.
Okay, so my plays in this series, I'm only going player props. I got Nichushkin over 4 points. Makar to have more points than Nurse at -154. Kane over 2.5 goals at -143. Draisaitl over 4.5 assists, I think is a good spot, considering he had 11 in the last 3 games. And Draisaitl point in every game +375. Those are my Western Conference Finals props.
I only have a couple, so I'll jump in quick. 6 games. I'm just going to hit that one again, +200. This one isn't available because it's a game-to-game. But until Draisaitl proved me wrong, I will continue to hit his prop.
Shots or point over 1.5 points?
Is plus money, whatever. I haven't even looked what it is today, but I'm assuming it'll work. King goals +800 to lead the series in goals +800. And I think I'll go with...
Draisaitl's +145 tonight, by the way.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. Bank on that one. Kadri +1100 is kind of where I'll play between one of those two.
All right. Zach?
Yeah, I'm basically only on the Oilers side here. Like, I just don't have a good enough feel for this Colorado team, to be honest. I'm taking the Oilers outright at +220. McDavid over 9.5 points. Draisaitl over 8.5 points. Hyman over 4.5 points. And Bouchard over 2.5. And then Draisaitl points in every game. I've been riding the Hyman and Bouchard props in each series, and it's come up big for me so far. So I'm just going to kind of keep going back to the well on that one. Same thing with McDavid. His point total is only 1 point higher than it was in the first 2 series. So I think that's kind of interesting. And Draisaitl's same thing. He went up from 7.5 to 8.5. So
I also had Hyman on my list to lead the series in goals, which was +1100.
I kind of like that one too.
I don't know if he's going to score in every single game again, but he's around, right? Like, he just seems like one of those guys who's just going to find a way, no matter what he needs to do. So that's where I'll go. And then, shall we jump into the Eastern Conference Finals?
Yeah, so the Rangers are favorites, but not as heavy favorites as the Avs are. The Lightning are -180. The Rangers are +150. They're dogs. If you want the Lightning in 6 games or earlier, that's paying out even money in this one. So here's where I'm torn. So at the beginning of the playoffs for Daily Faceoff, my bracket was ending with a Colorado Rangers final. That was my duo. And now we're at the point where I'm sitting here going like, I think the Lightning are going to win, but I can't back down from my take from the beginning. That would make me a coward. And same thing with the other one. I think Edmonton can win this series in 6 or 7 games, but I can't back down off my cup pick in my bracket. So I'm just all in a pretzel right now. I don't know who's fucking winning.
Okay, here's my thing on the Rangers. I have 2 takes, one from each team.
Okay.
The New York Rangers have faced one starting goaltender this playoffs, and he was injured.
Yeah, it was one game of injured Tristan Jarry.
Yeah, that's the only time they faced the legit starter. Granted, I think Rantanen is a very good goaltender and probably good enough to be a star in this league.
Yeah, Ranta's good.
He just played a lot, and I think it just became too much. And then you look at Tampa Bay, and it's like, okay, your leading goal scorers are Ross Colton and Corey Perry. Mm-hmm. And now you're going to face Igor Shesterkin.
Yeah.
Okay, now that really puts me in a bit of a pretzel where I'm going to put my thing. I think you've got to keep riding Tampa Bay because they're Tampa Bay. Everyone said, "Oh, they're too tired. They're not going to make it out the first round against Toronto." Well, I didn't, and I kept betting on them, and I kept winning. And now here we are in the Eastern Conference Finals, and my pick for this one is Tampa in 6.
Okay. I can't argue with that. It makes sense. And you're right. Like the Rangers, who have they faced? Casey DeSmith, who had a cramp. That was weird.
Yeah.
Louis Domingue and
Jarry, and then
Ranta and Ketchkov or whatever his name is.
Yeah, the other guy. So they faced 5 goalies.
Yeah.
And yeah, like Pittsburgh missed Crosby for that last game.
Yeah.
They're kind of lucky to get out the first round, to be honest. Carolina just couldn't win a game on the road, which was the strangest thing.
So weird.
Didn't you tweet they were one of the best road teams in the regular season?
They were legitimately top 3 points percentage teams on the road all season long.
The Rangers?
The Hurricanes.
Oh, the Hurricanes.
And
wow.
They couldn't win a single game on the road in the playoffs.
Stunning.
And the thing is, too, when you watched it, it didn't even look like they were going to come close to winning the game.
Yeah,
they got smoked every time.
It's weird.
I couldn't believe it. I remember the show, the Daily Faceoff live show after game 2 against Boston. And I think everybody thought they were just going to get swept. Like Boston was going to be done. Yeah. They went to 7. And then the same thing happened with the Rangers. Like maybe I'm undervaluing the way the Rangers were resilient and they're 5-0 in elimination games, and Shesterkin's been unreal. But I just don't believe in them anymore. Like, I don't know. Maybe
I've believed in the Rangers. I've picked them to get to this point. Like I said earlier, I picked them to go to the Cup final, but it's tough to imagine them winning 4 times against this Tampa Bay team.
Yeah, and that's my thing. I think they're a good team. I think they're deep. I just think they seem like one of those teams who just isn't ready yet. And he's just relying too much on the goalie.
Like those old Justin Trudeau commercials. He's just not ready.
Nice
Look
hair.
Look at his hair. Yeah, nice hair, though.
Yeah, I kind of got to agree with you, Liam. I just don't buy this Rangers team, which is weird because at Daily Faceoff in our mid-season awards, I picked Gerard Gallant as my Jack Adams trophy winner, and I got lit up for it, funny enough.
He's done a great job with that team. He's done a great
job, but again, I just haven't bought them at all into the playoffs here. And again, it's just Tampa. I just have a hard time betting against them. Yeah. I took them outright before the playoffs started at plus 1,100. I took them outright against the Leafs. I took them outright against the Panthers. This Lightning team dispatched a good Florida team.
A historic Florida team.
Historic Florida team in 4 games. And they didn't even really make it look close at all.
I think the only reason this series won't be 4 is because of Shesterkin.
I absolutely agree.
Also, something to throw in the mix of this, the Rangers are the home team.
Yeah.
The Rangers have home ice, which is interesting. For some reason, I just never even considered it. I just assumed Tampa Bay was better, but the Rangers was like push Carolina to the end.
The first 2 games are huge.
Yeah, yes.
In MSG, the Lightning haven't played in 8 days or some shit like that?
And they had to wait right until the end to know who they were playing. Yep. So it's not like they've had tons of time to game plan exactly against the Rangers. But yeah, like that's a lot of time off. But maybe good for Tampa.
To allow them to rest. I don't think they're getting Braden Point back. Something that's interesting, though, because I was thinking, like, oh, maybe the Rangers in the first game are worth a bet. You know, you're feeling good. You're riding that big high. The Lightning have to come to you. MSG's rocking. You're in that rhythm, and you're not quite maybe worn down like you may be later in the series. Also, Vasilevkiy, historically, is way better later in the series than he is early. So what's interesting is the Rangers are only plus 110 on the money line in game 1. That feels off to me considering they're like plus 160 to win the series. Same thing with the Oilers, who are plus 210, plus 220 to win the series, but plus 165 in game 1. It's interesting how the books maybe think there's a chance these underdogs snipe one early in the series.
Yeah, and I guess that happened in the first series for the Oilers.
Yep.
They lost to LA in the first game, and then sometimes I guess maybe you just need that wake-up call to go into it. Do you think then the Rangers will take game 1?
I think it's certainly possible. And I think if they want to have any hope in this series, they have to win probably both at home.
Yeah.
Like if it's 1-1 going back to Tampa, it's like, ooh, I don't like their chances at all. If it's 2-0 going back to Tampa, then it's kind of like, all right, giddy up because we're going to have a series here.
Wasn't there a thing too where the Rangers going into last night had only won once on the road?
Yeah, it was one time.
Yeah, so like Carolina was being criticized heavily, but it's not like the Rangers had done much either.
Which is why you can't be down, or you can't be 1-1 going back to Tampa, because then you're pretty much just punching your ticket to being down 3-1, I think.
Yeah. What do you think?
I don't know. Like, I look at Shesterkin obviously as being the X factor in this series for the Rangers. Again, I look back to the first round series for the Rangers against Pittsburgh, and they made Shesterkin look like a normal goaltender.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean, they put up over 3 goals in 6 of 7 games. They put 4 past him twice, and they even racked up 6 goals against him in one game. Like, I think that Carolina didn't play to their standard, and I think a lot of their offensive weapons really dried up. And, you know, Shesterkin had a .949 save percentage. It wasn't for lack of chances. I mean, Colorado pumped him with shots pretty much every single game, and just couldn't beat him. And again, I just look at this Tampa Bay team. It's like I've always said, I'm not ready to bet against a team that's been there and done that successfully in the playoffs before. I just think Tampa Bay is too experienced and too good, honestly, to fall in this series. And you look at a lot of the players that Tampa's had, like guys like Kucherov have had a quiet playoff so far. Like, that's not going to last. Ross Colton and as you mentioned, Ross Colton and Corey Perry leading the way in scoring for Tampa. Like, that just seems so weird. Yeah. But again, it shows that, their depth is coming up big for them. And, now might be the time where their stars really start to take over.
So let's get into the props. The reason I'm struggling with the props in this series is because I'm looking at a site here where pretty much everyone, Hedman, Fox, Lafreniere, Killorn, Panarin, even Kreider's only at 2, and everyone else is at 1 or 1.5. Like Philip Cheadle had a good series. He set at 1. Vetrano 1. And I feel like you can talk yourself into so many of these. It's so enticing to see a prop at 1 for a best of 7 series. But I just think we're going to be in for so many like 2-1, 3-1 games that it's like, a lot of these guys will not score a goal in the series.
Even when Tampa played Florida, they weren't blowout games.
Nope.
One of them was 2-1 when Colton scored with literally a second left. Yeah. Like, that's why I was a little unsure what to do with the prop bets too on this one. I just think, like you said, it's going to be so tight. These are literally the 2 best goalies in the league.
Yeah.
How's anyone going to score? Like, the reason, like Carolina, like you said, their stars didn't show up. It's not like they're not there.
Yeah.
Aho's a really good player, Svechnikov, and they just couldn't score him when they really needed to because it's going to be so tight. Like, I don't know how many prop bets I would even place on this one.
So the one I do like is Kucherov over 2.5 goals at -118. I think a spot. You like it, Zach?
Yeah, I'm already on that one actually.
Yeah.
That's like I said, it just feels like a good rebound spot for Kucherov as a player.
And then I want to pick one of these guys who are set at 1. Killorn doesn't have a goal yet in the playoffs. I feel like he's probably due, but again, I'm not sold on him being able to get 2. Nick Paul playing on that second line is tempting.
I thought about him too. I thought about him
because we know like Braden Point's not going to be here to start. Nick Paul has 2 goals in 11 games so far in the playoffs. Like, not great by any means, but like if he scores 1, you're getting a push. Yeah, I'm doing it. I'm going Nick Paul over 1 goal. I'm in.
That took a lot of convincing.
Yep, you guys talked me into it.
There you go.
What are you doing? What are your? I'm only doing 2, Kucherov and Paul. That's all I got for this series.
Okay, so I only have 1, and it's Kucherov to lead the series in goals.
Okay,
plus 1,000. He was like
10-1's pretty good.
I couldn't believe how low down he was. Like, let me pull up the thing right here. I moved it on. So he's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th on the list. Panarin, Kopp, Point, Zibanejad, Stamkos, and Kreider are all ahead of him.
Wow.
I couldn't believe that. He had 2 goals last series, and he's also Nikita Kucherov.
Yeah, like he is Nikita Kucherov.
He's probably the best offensive player in this series. Why is he kind of being so undervalued? I'm not sure. But Braden Point's higher than him, and he might miss games in this series. Likely might. Is he going to play? Do we know?
I don't think so.
Yeah, exactly. He's plus 800 on the list still. Like, I would jump on Kucherov before it's too late.
Yeah, I'm on Kucherov over 2.5 goals. I'm on Tampa to win the series 4-2. Huh? I think that's the one that you took as well.
Yes.
I like that one there. I wish there was some props on this one site for Anthony Cirelli playing top line minutes besides Stamkos and Kucherov.
That's weird.
I mean, if there was a point total there of like 3.5 or 4.5, like I'd love to jump on that one, even to go like over a goal or something like that. Yeah. There's not really a lot. Like we've kind of said here, this is going to be such a tough series to get a read on. I just don't know where to go. I mean, it's going to be a strange one. I don't know where to go with it, and I just can't trust any of these really. So I think I'm just going to be on the 2. Just Tampa to win the series 4-2 and Kucherov over 2.5 goals.
All right.
If you wanted to jump on Tampa Bay's 2 leading scorers in the playoffs, Ross Colton is plus 3,000, and Corey Perry is also plus 3,000.
All right. Well, also, it'll be interesting.
Victor Hedman is 30 plus 35.
They spelled his name wrong.
Yeah, this one site I'm looking at has Lightning spelled wrong.
Oh, no.
I don't even know how to pronounce it. Lihtgtning.
Lightning.
Oh boy,
That's a tough.
Hey, that's life. Tonight, though, game to game wise, I like the Mike Smith save prop tonight over 32.5. I think the Avs are going to be fired up to just pepper them with rubber in this game. I love Draisaitl over 1.5 points as well. And I think those might be my only two plays unless there's an individual player shot prop I like. Team shots on goal for the game, 68.5. I'm hitting that too, actually.
How do you think the Oilers are going to come out? I think that's a big question, right?
It's a big question.
Like, if they come out kind of guns blazing, I like a lot of the shot props. Like, Evander Kane 3.5 is probably a decent one. Like, I believe Nugent Hopkins was hitting a little bit better towards the end of the series against Calgary. So
he had the one monster game where he had like 6 shots.
Yeah, like plus 120 for him to go over 3.5. It's kind of... I always find it the most difficult to do shot props in game one.
Yeah.
Just because I think you need an idea of how the series is going to go. Barry, not the best value, but minus 160 for 2 shots. Like, he's on the power play. You know, sometimes they just tee him up for there. He's actually been doing pretty well at getting shots through in the playoffs, I've thought. Yeah. There's a couple I would like on the Oilers game tonight. And then Draisaitl to get his 2 points is good. And honestly, Nichushkin, like we spoke about, if he does play with McKinnon, minus 140 to grab a point isn't bad. And also Arturi Lehkonen, even money to get a point. Yeah. He's been playing on that top line too. If he's not on the top line, he's in the top 6. And I think he could chip in definitely.
If you don't follow along in our Twitter community, go find it at BLT Bets. Liam's always posting links to it. I'm retweeting them as well. Go check it out. And we're always dropping our plays game to game in there. Shout out to our friends at PointsBet Canada. And Zach, thanks for filling in again this week.
My pleasure. Happy to be here.
Yes, sir. This will be in the wrap for another episode of BLT Bets. We'll be back a little bit later on, probably halfway through the series, to talk about all things hockey and whatever else pops into our head. Enjoy the conference finals.